in all therapies, there is a general premise that once you are completely successfully through the breakthrough stage of treatment of a disease or problem or addiction, there comes this maintenance stage. We help the body to heal, body get used to this level of support, and then suddenly we withdraw support. And sometimes, because body is reminded how to function properly, body happily goes along with that. Sometimes this is not enough, and sometimes, especially when we go more from endocrine functional disturbances more into toxic lymphatic diseases or degenerative diseases or tendencies to stagnation or tendency to chronicity in diseases, then in this situation we need to provide some sort of maintenance with acupuncture after initial period of healing. Definitely they need to come every month to receive acupuncture, and it will be more or less summary of what they received before plus any current little complaints and pains and aches. By doing this, you can actually avoid problems in the future, because often what we feel like, we receive this amazing healing and we are feeling that we are totally on the top of the world and everything is resolved once and for all. And we forget about these predispositions, family tendencies, and we feel like this will never happen again. And then we don't receive the therapy, be that acupuncture or colourpuncture, for a really, really long time, somewhere maybe in 1 year, in 2 years' time. But things can come back again, maybe not as bad. In the case of Colourpuncture, definitely I observe things never come back as bad as they were ever. Because once you heal something with Colourpuncture, you tapped into a really profound level of energy information. This is different from acupuncture. Acupuncture acts quicker, but it's less sustainable from what I can observe, because I do both techniques, and sometimes it's the same people I do acupuncture and Colourpuncture to, sometimes different people, and I'm using both techniques myself. I receive needles and I receive Colourpuncture. It's not only my experience as well. I have several students, Colourpuncture students who are also acupuncture therapists. I observed absolutely the same thing. Acupuncture quicker but less sustainable. Colourpuncture works slower, but it's much, much more sustainable. Still, even with Colourpuncture, you need to create this maintenance. For example, you have somebody who doesn't have any physical symptoms, or maybe they have, let's say, here is a lady and she has PMT, pre-period tension, mood swing, but there is also some kind of physical counterpart, probably breast tenderness or pain in the lower belly, pain in the lower back. If this is a purely endocrine level of functioning, if this is stress related, if this is something that comes depending on different situation, person's life, then chances are that you do several endocrine treatments, you work with person for several months, and then the problem goes, and it goes pretty much forever. They might not need to top up depending on what is happening on the level of their soul, on the level of their psyche. So, for example, if there was a problem which led to this physiological imbalance on an endocrine level, on the level of internal conflict, and you resolve this problem with other treatment, for example, prenatal therapy or conflict resolution, then pretty much what we did was that we removed what is called favorite poison. Favorite poison and expression, which refers to our main pattern, embedded pattern, which runs our life. If we resolve this with conflict resolution therapy and we did some endocrine treatment directed to resolution of this particular problem, so for example, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, can be resolved this way. Premenstrual tension can be resolved this way. Situations like that, which are functional in nature. If we did physiological treatment on the level of the system itself, plus we did some conflict resolution, if the situation was more chronic with prenatals or conflict resolution, we have the whole family of conflict resolution treatments. And so person became aware of their main pattern, and they can really look into this pattern and change some daily behavior, then pretty much this is it. They might not need further maintenance. When I just started my practice, I only knew very limited amount of Colourpuncture treatment. I got training from a different organization, which was beautiful in its own right. But in terms of Colourpuncture treatment, there was a certain amount of treatment, so I didn't know back then as many treatments that I have now with all this advanced treatment and all this update seminars we do every year. But with my first patients who successfully went through the same thing, their presenting physiological or physical complaint was different. They received several endocrine sessions, they received set of prenatals, and that was it. They moved on somewhere, and I could feel it because they started doing things differently in their life. They started to adjust their habits. They started to look at their relationship differently. They started to dress differently. For example, somebody who couldn't keep eye contact, they started keeping eye contact. So it was obvious that something really got integrated at some level. In this situation, they might not need maintenance, or I would still say that it's a good practice at least twice a year. If they come to a clinic and you give them some treatment, this would be ideal, because just life happens. I think we all need some helping hand every now and again. This is concerning endocrine stage. If you have somebody with toxic stage, toxic lymphatic, when there is either tendency to get acute illnesses of any kind, respiratory illnesses, cystitis, gastritis, any itis sort of diseases, energy stagnation, blood stagnation, more degenerative patterns, then obviously we are talking about something completely different. They need more support on the level of the body itself. So they need more acupuncture-based Colourpuncture treatments, acupressure massage before you do Colourpuncture. They might need piezoelectric stimulation of the point, or needle, or whatever you can use to wake up the point when you do Colourpuncture. They might need different approach, because this is a different stage of development. In this case, the disease took longer to develop. This imbalance caused by, in case of psychosomatic disease or some kind of internal conflict, we are further away from the root of this disease. So the history is longer. So we need to unravel much longer situation. And then, for example, if there is any weakness, any inborn weakness, you might need some more maintenance, just because you've affected more on a bodily level. So here, it's not relevant if you have psychological problems, emotional problems, or you don't, because body is affected. Consider that as you go and exercise. You exercise really, really diligently. You go to gym, or you go to the park and run for like a month, and you feel like you've done something really, really well. And then for 3 months, you do nothing. Now, the body is not going to appreciate that, because on the body level, we need to move. The same goes for our acupuncture pathways. If there is a certain weakness of a certain pathway, so for example, people tend to get respiratory diseases, they really need to spend some longer initial time with Colourpuncture to heal it. And at some level, they need to be either mindful of first signs of diseases, in case of respiratory diseases, for example. On a practical level, you just need to be able to catch the first stages of cold, for example. Plus, you need to detect in time your stresses and your tiredness level, which can lead to this transition from endocrine to toxic pattern. And then if you do all that, you might not need that heavy maintenance. If this is a simple level of what is called in acupuncture external pathogen invasion. But for situation more chronic, for situation, for example, when there is a subthreshold inflammation of unknown origin, something is going on, you cannot quite pinpoint it, or there was some disease, for example, some quite heavy toxic lymphatic disease in the past, which was suppressed with antibiotics or suppressed with surgery, then you might need longer. And so in all those cases, bodily involvement, then your maintenance will be longer and be more frequent.